In May 2025, the Rotary Club of Sunrise, Florida, co-hosted with the LifePoint Community Church a community health seminar. And the LifePoint Church co-hosted this event because to them, this is a ministry, as the core belief of the Judeo-Christian tradition is that we should love our neighbors as ourselves, even those neighbors who are different from us, even those neighbors who are difficult to love. And the LifePoint Church is a welcoming church open to everyone in the community. LifePoint Church also has a homeless ministry, and they distribute food for the poor and homeless each week. Some of the homeless experience mental illness, including dementia and schizophrenia, and can indeed be very difficult to love. And they have had experiences with the homeless after receiving their free food who stand outside and yell at them like maniacs. These and similar challenges are why many churches choose not to open their doors to the homeless, as they can be challenging to deal with. Often parishioners feel threatened by them, especially when they act irrationally and exhibit unacceptable behavior, like peeing in the bushes, or threatening violence, or saying sexually inappropriate things. Some of the homeless have difficulty finding jobs because they have criminal records. Now, in recent years, police departments across the country have been more aware of the challenges of properly dealing with the demented and mentally ill. In their 2024 session, the Florida legislature required that police departments provide CIT training to the beat cops, not only on mental illness in general, but on dementia in particular. And the city of Sunrise is a leader in these efforts. Sunrise Police Chief Ransone has hired several social workers to assist in dealing with the mentally ill and dementia sufferers, as well as the homeless. And they have spoken on these topics to our Rotary chapter recently. Now, when we learned that many of the homeless do indeed suffer from schizophrenia, we asked NAMI, the National Association of Mental Illness, to provide a speaker. One of the counselors told us of her experiences growing up with a father who suffered from both schizophrenia and alcoholism, which begs another question. How many schizophrenics are also alcoholics and or substance abusers?
Share my story with schizophrenia. My father suffered of schizophrenia and alcoholism his entire life. Since I was little, I remember him clinking the ice, preparing a drink. I thought it was water. It was alcohol. Generally, it was gin and tonic or gin and water. It looked like a full glass of water to me. I was very young, maybe 5, 6 years old. I remember our house being in disarray at times when I would come home from school, and my mom was always very protective of us, so she wouldn't tell us that my dad had done this, so we would just pick up and keep moving. And she would just say, "You got this, we got this." I also have a brother that was 3 years younger than me. He now lives in Miami. Also suffered through the trauma of being with my dad throughout our lives. Now he has 2 daughters and he's been married for a long time. My dad, to me, aside from doing all those things at the beginning that I didn't know was him, he was perfect for me. He was my incredible, perfect dad. In Puerto Rico, we call it papi. I'm from Puerto Rico, born and raised there. And I was his mommy. I was his mommy linda. I was his pretty mommy. And he always had me, I don't know if there was milk or groceries in the fridge, but he always, I remember I have a lot of pictures of me with my pretty dress and my stockings and my socks and my bows all matched, the one from the shoes with my earrings. Later on, as things continued, these episodes happened maybe several times a month. You know, I started to get a little bit older and I started seeing different things. There were times when he wasn't drinking and I started to see him have hallucinations. Like he would start seeing blood coming down on the walls, or he would start hearing voices. And we had to be quiet. Everybody had to be quiet because he needed to speak to the Pope or he needed to speak to Jesus. And to me, that was very bizarre at such a young age. I think it's bizarre at any age if you haven't been exposed to it. He also said random voices that didn't make sense. He couldn't put a sentence together. Or he would be staring at things and saying that things were there that were not there. And at the time, I was not therapeutic. I was not very therapeutic. Maybe now I'm therapeutic, and after a while, I knew what to say in those instances. But back then, I didn't know. I just thought that those were the effects of alcohol, and that's why he's acting like this. Or he's in withdrawal, which later on I learned because my mother would get him hospitalized, and he would go to be in a hospital for a month or 2 until he became better, sometimes 3 months, and then he would come home and he was papi again. He was like my beautiful papi, my amazing, thought correctly, could speak well. It was nice to see when I had those opportunities. Unfortunately, he was up and down a lot with his illness or with the alcohol drinking. One time at home, he decided to change all the tires in our car. He left the car in just 4 cement blocks. And we only had one car, and it was a Gremlin. I'm a little old, so it was a little Gremlin from way back when, and he would just leave us without ability to leave to do anything. My mom or us kids, we were in school. Thank God that we could walk to school, and my mom could walk to work. And that's how we managed. And then when he would be out of his stupor, then he would be better, and he would put the tires all back on. And sometimes he would start cleaning the house at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning and pulling furniture and pushing and making all kinds of noise. We had to go to school the next day, so my mom just managed it as best as she could. My mother always expected good grades. My mom, she was a very strong woman. She was always steady, always standing. She was a little bit of an army sergeant, we had to have good grades, and really we had to have A's. She said good grades, but no, she expected A's. I always admire her strength because I don't know how she did what she did alone, basically. One time, one summer, my mom was very proud. I was going to go start school. I wanted to become a doctor, and I was going to start school at University of Illinois in Chicago. And I was about to start in September of 1986. And she started to become ill at around maybe June of that summer. And she started to display like this weakness, generalized weakness. She started to have shortness of breath. She couldn't walk very far, just a couple feet, and she would just have this fatigue, and she had to sit down. And I didn't understand, but I said, Mommy, we need to go to the hospital. We need to go to the doctor. It took a while for her to get diagnosed. It took maybe a few months. Just before I was getting ready to start college, she was diagnosed with a severe form of leukemia. It's called acute myelocytic leukemia, and she passed away. She was diagnosed on a Friday. She passed away on Monday before she was gonna get chemotherapy. I think she prayed to pass away because she did not want to get chemo. My mom was the pillar of my life. I had just turned 17 probably, and my father is in and out of hospitals with his hallucinations and delusions and acting erratic, sometimes eloping. We wouldn't know where he would be. The police would bring him home. And that was just the general picture at home all the time. But when my mom passed away, my life was like a movie, and it seemed like there was always some action. And as dysfunctional as it was, there was action, and there was color, and there was movement. And when my mom passed away, I remember just like the movie stopped. There was no more color. There was no more sound. And I felt alone. I caught myself rocking myself on the floor, thinking, how in the world am I going to do this? I didn't have family, and I just prayed. All I did was pray. I was raised Catholic. We went to church on Sundays with my dad, and all I knew was to pray through life, just pray through all the obstacles and all the struggles. I would even shower with my clothes on at that time when my mom passed away. I just got disconnected completely from life. I prayed so much. I got up that day. I said, I am not going to lose my mind like my dad did. I thought the mind was something so fragile. And I said, I'm going to get up. I'm not going to keep rocking like my dad used to because of his illness. I said, if I still have some sanity, I'm going to get up and I'm going to keep moving, and I'm going to raise my dad, and I'm going to raise my brother. I started college. He told me in some lucid moments that he would have, he said, why don't you go back to school? Try to start. And I said, okay, I'll start. But this time I was not going to go to med school. I was going to just do a degree in Spanish, which is all I knew, so I could pass at least my classes. So I would stay in school. I was in Puerto Rico. I went to the University of Illinois, but then I had to come back the first semester. My dad was not managing life well with the loss of my mom. He kept drinking. He was taking care of my brother. And I said, I cannot be gone to go to school. I have to take care of you guys. And I came back, and he was found one time in another town walking without any clothes on with an empty suitcase. Somebody took him to the police station and called me, and I came over. I would take him to a psychiatric hospital in Puerto Rico, usually about an hour away from where we lived. Another time I was coming from school with a girlfriend of mine at 10 p.m. and I shined the headlights in the car, I shined straight out where I parked. And there's my dad sitting in the staircase with a machete this big. And I left the lights on and I came out of the car and I said, "Papi, it's me." I always managed to have this calm voice that he knew me as always having, no matter how mad I would get. "It's me. Why don't you get in the car? Because you don't feel good right now." And he would usually resist, but that day, thank God that he got in the car, and then I had an hour drive with him, scared that he was going to run out of the car on the highway or in the mountains, because this was really the mountains, windy roads and dark. But I made it to the hospital, and then he was hospitalized another month or two later. Then he was well. Then he came home as my papi again, very stable and doing very well. So the main challenge for me was how to differentiate his psychosis from the alcoholism, because he also had withdrawal effects from alcohol. He had delirium tremens. He had a lot of side effects of the medications, because sometimes he would take his meds with alcohol, with a big glass of gin with grapefruit juice, or he would throw them away. So that was the biggest challenge. Most times he wouldn't take the meds, and then also most times he would take them with alcohol. So I blamed the psychosis on the alcoholism, and I wondered how much was attention seeking at the time. And later on, as I became a little older, maybe at 19, 20, I went to nursing school. And I also decided to read more on schizophrenia and become more educated and see what it was that he was going through all those years. And becoming a nurse, I did my psych rotation at Jackson Memorial. I was at Annex 5 in Jackson Memorial. They had some of the toughest diagnosed patients with like severe psychosis and all kinds of side effects of medications. And I was able to validate, in a sense, what he was having, what my dad was experiencing, because sometimes I thought it wasn't real. And I learned that it was real, that he suffered, that what he saw, the things that he would see that were not real to me or to anyone's naked eye, it was very real to him. The voices were real to him. The sense that someone was following him was real to him. Once I became educated, I learned how to respond to him with skill. I learned how to communicate with him. I learned how to be empathetic and continue to be empathetic and have an empathetic voice. The tone, many times, I could just feel his shoulders go down. He would feel just so much calmer, and I could sometimes prevent agitation. I learned to accept the illness that he had. That took me a long time. I learned to be flexible and adaptable, because every day, one moment he was fine, the next moment he was in crisis. And that helped me incredibly to be with my boys. I have two boys that are adopted with a lot of mental health issues, a lot of abandonment, and a lot of attachment issues. I learned to not be fearful of schizophrenia and all the signs that he was displaying, and that even though I didn't know what he felt like inside, because it was so puzzling, I could walk him through his illness with dignity and with pride. And for me, one big lesson was that in silence, there's no recovery, only pain and isolation. My dad passed away 5 years ago, and he was the love of my life. Thank you.
If you are in Sunrise, Florida, please visit our club. You can find the meeting times on our club website. I have a video on the history of Rotary and my personal goals in joining Rotary. What is Rotary? We have a short video that we downloaded from the Rotary International website that explains the many goals of Rotary International.